I wasn't supposed to stay at Drew's place that long. Originally, it was just for the weekend. My landlord had to tent the building for termites, and I needed somewhere to crash for a couple of nights. Drew offered without hesitation, just like he always did. We'd been friends since sophomore year of college, close in that quiet, reliable way, where you don't need to talk every day to know the other person's got your back. He lived in a small one-bedroom in West Hollywood, the kind of place that always smelled faintly like fresh laundry and coffee. It had a little balcony, a couch that was way too comfortable, and about 1,000 half-burnt candles scattered around. Very Drew. When I got there Friday afternoon, he buzzed me up and met me at the door with that crooked smile of his. "Welcome to Casa de Drew," he said, stepping aside so I could wheel my suitcase in. All-inclusive amenities include cold beer, Wi-Fi, and my undivided attention for at least the next 48 hours. "You had me at beer," I joked. He grabbed my bag and dropped it near the couch, which he'd already made up with fresh sheets and 2 pillows. I was going to suggest I take the floor, but the way he'd set it all up made it clear he wasn't going to hear of it. Drew was like that, thoughtful to a fault. Always making sure everyone else was good, often at the expense of himself. We spent that first night drinking Modelo on his balcony, catching up on everything from work drama to dating disasters. He was between guys, and I hadn't dated anyone seriously in over a year. Not since Ben, the lawyer who made me feel like a temporary accessory to his career plans. At one point, Drew leaned back in his chair, one leg propped up on the balcony railing, and said, "Why are we both single? We're amazing." I laughed. "Speak for yourself." "I am, and I'm speaking for you too. You're hot, smart, emotionally available. You'd think guys would be lining up." I didn't know how to respond to that. I looked over at him. The way the glow from the string lights hit his face, the soft lines at the corners of his mouth when he smiled, the way his eyes crinkled when he was genuinely amused, and for just a second, something flickered. I pushed it down. By Sunday night, it was clear I wasn't going back to my apartment anytime soon. The fumigation had been delayed. The landlord said maybe Thursday, maybe Friday. Drew didn't even blink. "Just stay," he said. "What's a few more days?" So I stayed. And things got weird. Not bad weird, not awkward, just different. It started small, a lingering look during breakfast. A weird sort of tension when we'd brush past each other in the hallway. One night we were watching a movie on the couch and he fell asleep with his head on my shoulder. I didn't move. I could have, but I didn't. I told myself it didn't mean anything, that it was just two friends, comfortable around each other. Except it didn't feel that way. It felt like something else. And the worst part was, I didn't know if it was just me. By Tuesday, the air between us was thick, with something unspoken. We hadn't talked about the night he fell asleep on me. Drew just mumbled something about being exhausted when he woke up halfway through the credits and shuffled off to bed. But the next morning, things felt charged. He handed me coffee with this tiny smile, tired but warm, and I caught myself watching his hands more than I should have. The veins, the way he always held the mug with both palms like he was trying to soak in the heat. It was little things like that, details I suddenly couldn't ignore. And maybe I'd always noticed them, but now they were louder. Louder than the friendly boundaries I'd drawn around him in my head. That night, after dinner, we ended up sitting on the floor of his living room. The couch was covered in laundry, and we were too lazy to fold it, so we just camped out on the rug with a bowl of popcorn and a bottle of wine. We didn't bother to chill. Halfway through the second glass, Drew got quiet. "Can I ask you something?" he said, staring down at his wine. "Sure." He didn't look at me when he asked it. "Have you ever thought about us?" I froze. "What do you mean?" He finally looked up, and his expression was impossible to read. "I don't know. Like, if things were different. If we met in some other way. At some other time." I laughed. Nervously. Too quickly. "We did meet at another time. College." "I mean, if we weren't friends first," he said. "If we didn't already know everything about each other." That's when I realized this wasn't a hypothetical. He wasn't testing the waters. He was asking something real. I swallowed. "Why are you asking me that?" "Because I've been thinking about it," he said. "A lot more than I probably should." My heart was thudding in my chest. I didn't know where to look, so I focused on the half-empty glass in my hand. "You remember that time we went to Palm Springs?" he asked suddenly. "Junior year?" I nodded slowly. "Of course. That weird Airbnb with the broken hot tub." He gave a soft laugh. "Yeah, that one." Then he looked at me again. "That night we stayed up late, playing Cards Against Humanity. I almost kissed you." I blinked. "You what?" "I didn't, but I wanted to. I just didn't know what would happen after. And I didn't want to lose you." The room felt like it tilted slightly. I could hear the distant hum of traffic outside his window, but everything else was quiet. I put my glass down. "I didn't know," I said. He nodded. "I figured. And if you had?" He raised an eyebrow. "If I had what?" "If you had kissed me." He didn't answer for a moment, just stared at me like he was deciding something. Then he said, quietly, "I don't think we'd be having this conversation." I wasn't sure if that meant things would have been better or worse. I wasn't sure what I wanted it to mean, but I knew one thing. "I've thought about it too," I admitted. "Not often, but yeah, there were times." He shifted closer, just slightly. Our knees brushed. "And now?" he asked. I didn't look away. "Now I'm thinking about it a lot." Drew didn't say anything. He just reached out, slowly, carefully, and touched my hand. Just the lightest brush of fingers. But even that made my skin buzz. We sat like that for a while. Not talking, not moving. Just waiting to see what came next. The weird thing about crossing a line is that it's almost never dramatic. It wasn't some big, sweeping kiss or a confessional monologue under the rain. It was Drew resting his hand over mine. It was me not pulling away. That night, we didn't talk about it again. We just sat there in silence until the wine was gone and our legs were stiff from the floor. When we finally got up, he gave me this look, quiet, unreadable, and said, "Night." I slept like shit. Not because I regretted anything, but because my brain wouldn't shut up. It kept looping every second of that moment on the rug. His voice, his fingers, the way he looked at me like he wanted to ask something he didn't dare say. I kept thinking, what happens now? The next morning, everything looked the same. The couch was still a mess. The apartment still smelled like coffee and fabric softener. But Drew was different. Or maybe I was. He handed me coffee like always, but this time, our fingers touched a little longer. "You sleep okay?" he asked. I nodded. "You?" He gave a small shrug. "Not really." We didn't say anything else for a while, just sat there, mugs in hand, the silence thick again. Finally, I broke it. "Are we going to talk about last night?" He looked up from his coffee slowly. "Do you want to?" "I think we should." Drew set his mug down, rubbed the back of his neck. "Okay," but he didn't start. He just looked at me like he was trying to read the ending of a book before deciding if it was worth finishing. "I don't want to make things weird," I said. "They're already weird," he replied with a crooked smile. "Right," I said, laughing quietly. "So maybe we just talk it through." He nodded, took a breath. "Okay," he said. "So here's the truth. I've been into you for a while." I didn't say anything because I didn't want to ruin what we have. And I didn't know if you'd ever feel the same. I stared at him, heart pounding. "How long is? A while?" He hesitated. "Since that weekend we went camping with your ex and his friends." "That was like 2 years ago." "Yeah," he said quietly. "I know." The floor dropped out from under me. 2 years. And I'd never noticed. Or maybe I had, and just didn't want to see it. "I always thought it was one-sided," I said. Drew gave a small, sad smile. "It might have been. But lately I don't think it is." I looked at him. Really looked. He was sitting there in sweats, hair still messy from sleep. Socks mismatched. The kind of version of him I'd seen 100 times. But now, it hit different. Like the layers had peeled back, and I was seeing him. Really seeing him. For the first time. "It's not," I said quietly. His eyes flicked up to mine. "It's not what?" "One-sided." There was a beat. A long, still moment where neither of us moved. Then he got up, walked over to where I was sitting on the couch, and sat beside me. Close, but not touching. His voice was low when he spoke again. "I don't know what this is," he said, "or what it could be, but I don't want to ignore it anymore." I turned toward him. "Me either." Another pause, and then he leaned in, slow, deliberate, and kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't tentative. It was the kind of kiss that felt like a deep breath after holding one in for too long. His hand rested lightly on my jaw, thumb brushing the edge of my cheek. My heart was pounding, but I didn't pull away. When we finally broke apart, his forehead rested against mine. "I've wanted to do that for a long time," he said. "I know," I whispered. "So have I." We didn't say much after that, just sat there in the quiet, breathing each other in, and for the first time all week, everything felt still. Not tense, not confusing, just still. After that kiss, something shifted, but not in the way I expected. There wasn't some sudden declaration or emotional explosion. No one burst into tears or ripped their clothes off. It was quieter than that. Simpler. Like the silence that follows a truth you've been trying not to say for years. We spent the rest of the day dancing around it. Not awkward, exactly. Just cautious. Like we were both adjusting to this new version of us, trying it on, seeing how it fit. He still made eggs like he always did. Badly. I still teased him for using too much salt. But when he passed me the plate, our hands touched again, and neither of us moved away. We didn't talk about what came next. Not right away. That night, we ended up on the couch again, watching a movie we didn't care about. This time, I leaned into him first. His arm found its way around my shoulders like it had 100 times before, but now it meant something. Halfway through the movie, he shifted, pulled me in closer. "You cold?" he asked, barely above a whisper. "No," I said, resting my head on his chest. "Just feel better like this." I felt him exhale, a slow, deep breath, like he'd been holding it since that morning. We stayed like that for a long time. Eventually, he said, "What happens when you go back to your place?" I didn't answer right away. Because that was the question, wasn't it? The fumigation would be done in 2 days. I'd go back to my apartment, and everything would go back to normal. Except it wouldn't. Not now. "I don't know," I said. "Do you want me to go back?" He was quiet for a second. Then, "I don't think I do." I pulled back just enough to look at him. His expression was soft, uncertain. "Then say that," I said. He swallowed. "I don't want you to go back." That hit me harder than I expected. I didn't realize how much I'd wanted to hear it until it was out there, real and solid and impossible to take back. I sat up a little, legs folded under me, facing him. "I don't either," I admitted. "I don't know what this is yet, Drew, but I want to find out." He nodded, eyes on mine. "Me too." Another pause. Then he said, "Stay here, at least for now. Let's just see where this goes." Okay, it felt strange to agree to something so undefined, but it also felt right. I leaned in, kissed him again, slower this time, deeper. His hand slid up the back of my neck, and I felt myself melt into it. When we finally pulled apart, he whispered, "This still feels like a dream." I smiled. "Want me to pinch you?" "No," he said, pulling me into a hug. "Just don't wake me up." We ended up falling asleep on the couch that night, twisted up in each other, bodies half draped in a blanket, the TV playing some old sitcom rerun neither of us was watching. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for something to go wrong. I just felt home. I woke up before he did. The light was just starting to filter through the blinds, painting slow stripes across the floor. Drew was still curled next to me, arms slung lazily over my waist, face buried in the pillow. And for the first time in forever, I didn't want to move. I just watched him sleep. He looked so different when he wasn't on. No jokes, no sarcasm, no deflection. Just Drew, breathing steady, hair sticking up in the back. A tiny crease between his eyebrows like he was halfway through a dream. It was stupid how badly I wanted to kiss his forehead. I don't know how long I lay there, trying to commit every detail to memory, but eventually he stirred. Eyes blinked open slowly. He stretched, yawned, then looked at me. "Hey," he said, voice scratchy. "Hey," I replied softly. He blinked again. "Did we fall asleep here?" I nodded. "Like the mature adults we are," he grinned and tightened his arm around me briefly. "Good. I didn't want last night to feel like a one-off. It doesn't." There was a beat of quiet, the kind that fills up a room and makes it feel like the walls are listening. "I like this," he said. "Waking up with you." I smiled. "Me too." He leaned in and kissed me. Quick, soft morning breath and all, and somehow it felt more intimate than the ones we'd shared the night before. Like he wasn't trying to impress me, just trying to be near me. Eventually, we dragged ourselves off the couch and into the kitchen, where Drew made breakfast while I leaned against the counter and watched him pretend to know what he was doing. "You ever think about what we'd be like if this had happened earlier?" he asked, flipping a pancake that landed half on the pan, half on the stove. Constant sexual tension, probably some arguments over Spotify playlists, and one of us would have definitely said something stupid to screw it up. He laughed. "Yeah, that tracks. But now," I said, "now it feels different. Better." He turned, spatula in hand. "You really think that?" I nodded. "Yeah, I do." We ate on the balcony in our sweats. Plates on our laps, the breeze cool against our bare feet. Every few minutes, Drew would look over at me like he still couldn't believe I was there, and I kept catching myself doing the same thing. Because this wasn't a 1-minute weakness. This wasn't a fling. This was something real, growing in the quiet spaces between everyday life. Later that afternoon, while we were watching TV, I got a text from my landlord. "All clear. You can move back in tomorrow." Drew saw the look on my face and raised an eyebrow. "That the termite guy?" "Yeah," I said slowly. "He says the place is ready." Drew nodded, chewing on his lip for a second. Then he said carefully, "You don't have to go if you don't want to." I looked at him. "You sure?" He reached over, grabbed my hand. I've never been more sure about anything. I didn't pack. I told myself I would. I even opened my suitcase and laid it out on the floor, but I never touched my clothes. I just left everything where it was, folded in drawers, hanging in Drew's closet, my toothbrush next to his in the bathroom like it belonged there, because maybe it did now. That night, we didn't talk about it again. There was no "so are we boyfriends now" moment, no dramatic gesture, just quiet understanding that whatever this was, it was happening, and neither of us was backing away. We made dinner together. Real food this time, pasta, some kind of roasted vegetable mess Drew insisted was gourmet adjacent. We played music, danced a little in the kitchen when we thought no one was looking, which made no sense because no one was looking. After we ate, we did the dishes together. And when the sink was empty and the lights were low, Drew leaned back against the counter and looked at me for a long time. "I've never done this before," he said. "What dishes?" He laughed. "No, this. Like being with someone I already know this well." I leaned beside him. "Better or worse?" "Way better," he said, "but scarier too." "Why?" "Because if I screw this up," he said, "I lose more than just a guy I'm seeing. I lose you." My chest tightened. Not in a bad way. Just enough to remind me that this mattered. "You're not going to screw it up," I said. He turned to me, really looking now. "I want to get this right," he said. "I don't care how slow we go. I just don't want to pretend anymore." I nodded. "No pretending." He smiled, soft and serious. Then he pulled me in and kissed me again, slow and familiar, like we were practicing something we already knew how to do. That night, I slept in his bed for the first time. He didn't make it a thing. He just slid in beside me after brushing his teeth, pulled me under the covers, and curled an arm around my waist like it was the most natural thing in the world. We didn't say much, just a soft good night from both of us, whispered into the space between pillows. And when I woke up in the middle of the night, half dreaming, heart racing, I felt his hand on my chest, fingers curled just over my heartbeat like he was grounding me without even knowing it. I stayed awake for a while after that. Not because I was scared, but because I didn't want to miss a second of what it felt like to be wanted like that. To be home in someone else's arms and not feel like I had to earn it every second. The next few days passed in this strange golden blur. Not dramatic, not overly romantic. Just soft, steady, like we'd slipped into a rhythm that had always been there, waiting for us to notice it. Drew started calling it our place, half as a joke, half not. Did you leave the Brita empty again in our fridge? Or, I swear to God, if you leave your socks on our couch one more time. Every time he said it, something in me warmed. We still did normal things, grocery runs, laundry, work. But now, we kissed good morning. We held hands while watching TV. I'd catch him staring sometimes, like he was still adjusting to the fact that this was real. One night, I caught him sketching something on the back of a receipt. "You still draw?" I asked, sitting beside him on the couch. He looked sheepish. "Only when I'm feeling something." "What are you feeling now?" He hesitated, then turned the receipt toward me. It was a quick sketch, just two figures sitting on a balcony, legs stretched out, beers in hand. "Us." I smiled. "That's us." He nodded. "Yeah. You gonna frame it?" "Already did in my mind." I leaned in, kissed him. "You're such a sap. Takes one to love one." We laughed, but the moment lingered. And later, when we were curled up in bed, legs tangled, his breath warm against my neck, I realized something that scared the hell out of me. I was in love with him. I didn't say it. Not yet, but I knew. And I think he did too. The next morning, he made pancakes again. Better this time. I sat at the kitchen table, watching him move around the stove with that same lazy confidence, shirt rumpled, hair messy. He looked over his shoulder and caught me staring. "What?" "Nothing," I said, smiling. "No, what?" I paused. Then I said, "I like seeing you like this." "Like what?" "Happy." He didn't say anything, just walked over, leaned down, and kissed me on the forehead. "I've been waiting a long time to feel this," he said. I looked up at him. "Me too." It happened on a Sunday. The kind of lazy, perfect morning where nothing feels urgent. We were still in bed, half awake, my head on his chest, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my shoulder. The sunlight made everything feel warmer than it was. He was talking about nothing in particular, some weird dream he had, something about getting stuck in an elevator with Ryan Reynolds. And I was only half listening. Not because I didn't care, but because I was distracted by how much I wanted to freeze this exact moment. And then, without really planning to, I said it. "I love you." He stopped mid-sentence, just paused, his hand on my back stilled. I looked up at him, instantly nervous. "Shit," I muttered. "Sorry, that just came out." He blinked, still processing. Then he smiled. The kind of smile that made his whole face soften. The kind I hadn't seen on him since we were kids, back when everything felt easy. "Don't apologize," he said. I was trying to figure out how to say it too. I stared at him. "Wait, really?" He nodded, pulled me in closer. "I love you too." There was no dramatic swell of music. No camera pan out. Just us. Tangled in blankets, the room smelling faintly of detergent and whatever cologne he wore when he bothered to put some on. And suddenly, all the noise I'd been carrying, every doubt, every fear about screwing this up, just faded. That day, we didn't leave the apartment. We stayed in bed too long, ordered Chinese food, watched a movie we'd both already seen twice. I caught him looking at me more than once, like he was still wrapping his head around everything we'd become. Later that evening, I got a text from my landlord. "Just checking. Are you moving back this week? I stared at it for a minute, then showed it to Drew. He looked at me. Do you want to? I shook my head. No, not really. Then don't. And that was it. No big decision. No dramatic announcement. Just a quiet, mutual understanding that my bag wasn't getting packed. Because I was already home. Not just in his apartment, but with him